welcome to the Kryptonite Podcast. I'm Mark Storrs, and with me, as always, is...
I'm Chris Carncelli.
And...
Rob Morphy.
Thank you for joining us for this week's episode. As always, the social medias, the Instas, the Twitters, the Facebooks, hit us up there. Ratings and reviews are always appreciated and welcome for this podcast. You can do that on the Apple iTunes, the Apple Podcast apps, and our Facebook page. Be sure to stick around for the end of the episode. We have some reviews to go over. And a quick announcement before we get started here. We recently added some new products to our Big Cartel page, and we have an enamel pin set.
It is
Yes, we do.
the best.
Yeah, we've got some nice 2-inch hard enamel. Not any of that soft enamel that gets all weird on you and the paint gets all messed up. These are hard enamel pins.
Garbage enamel, we call
Exactly.
I've been so stoked for this for so long. You know, when we first thought of the idea of doing this and, you know, the first doodles, to actually hold it was just fucking monumental. I love it. I can't, you know.
Yeah.
I can't get over seeing something made tangible from an idea. Like, it is I guess we're all artists, but as creative types, that never stops being fucking brilliant to me.
Yeah. I actually was there when FedEx delivered it because I had to sign for it, so I was waiting all day. And the dude shows up with this box. I swear to God, it weighed like 30 pounds.
Oh, my God.
In a little tiny box from China. And he's like, here you go. I'm like, oh, my God, what the hell? We popped it open. I'm like, oh, man.
Those are the good days.
These are hard enamel pins.
They are.
And they are.
My dreams real.
They are heavy. And those, again, are for sale at our Big Cartel shop. That is kryptonitepodcast.bigcartel.com. And we're selling a set. You get 2 for $13, which in the enamel pin game is a pretty good deal.
That's a phenomenal deal.
Yeah. So be sure to check those out. The link for that will be in the description of this podcast. And as always, we have T-shirts and other accoutrement available over at our TeePublic shop. And, any of these purchases that you, our good listeners, make go to help support the pod financially. So, there's my push product ramble.
Yeah. Good
There it
speech.
is.
Good speech.
There it is.
Good deal. Cool pins. Help your bros.
There it is. All right, so this week we are talking about the Hampton Bays Sky Rays.
Indeed we are.
All right, let's get started with. For one New York couple, what began as a romantic evening to be spent marveling at one of nature's most magnificent wonders transformed into one of the weirdest and potentially alarming cryptid encounters on the books. An event that would forever change the way these eyewitnesses would look at the skies.
Indeed it would.
Oh, romance turns to possible issues with the sky.
Issues with the sky.
That's what
That's
we
the
call
best
it.
way to put it.
There it is.
Nobody needs that.
Sky
We're
issues.
surrounded by sky all the time, unless we're inside, but then we still know it's there. It's not like we're ever unaware of the sky's fucking presence. And if you have to have an issue with something, the sky is not one of the things you want to have an issue with.
Yeah, no.
You don't want to have a problem with the sky.
Like, the ground is probably number one, because you always have to be on the ground. So if you're in a tremor scenario, and there's some shit in the ground you got to worry about.
Quicksand.
Or natural disasters and things like that, then yes, you have to worry about it. Sky's second. Ocean, you can just avoid.
Yeah.
You know, I've never watched a Jaws or an orca or an ocean-going monster film where I just thought, fuck face, stay off the water. Just don't do it.
Yeah,
Like,
we talked about that in the mermaids episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Just
did.
stay out of the water.
just
Yeah.
avoid
Or
it.
you
if you have a
know
water
what?
issue.
If there is a big problem with the sky, you know how you can avoid the sky?
How?
Stay inside.
Oh.
No, there you
with
go.
a really sturdy roof.
There you go. Robert, take it away.
Founded in 1740 and located on the southeastern coast of Long Island, the affluent hamlet, that's always you're doing all right when you're in a hamlet. Hamlet of Hampton Bays is renowned as an angler's paradise and a tourist hub. But within the first decade of the new millennia, it was also known to briefly harbor a beast that was so bizarre its very existence beggared belief.
Jeez.
Unbelievable.
Beggared.
When you're beggaring belief, you're fucking doing it
You're
right.
something else.
Sometime in 2006, a woman referring to herself only as Jenny claimed that she drove her unnamed fiancé to a remote stretch of beach in order to show him an incredible natural display of phosphorescent shrimp, which sparkled like neon stars on the wet sand and in the rolling black water. The couple strolled into this bioluminescent utopia without a care in the world, and having no clue whatsoever that by night's end, neither of them would relate to the natural world in the same way ever again.
Oh, jeez.
Romance to terror. There it is.
Jenny and her fiancé made their way down the beach, marveling at the epic Avatar-esque spectacle that was splayed out before them. So I don't know if you guys have seen photos of this. It's absolutely beautiful.
I've seen, yeah.
It's just like this, at least the ones I've seen, like neon blue. and it stretches into the water and up the actual sand, just like we said, and it just goes into the distance, and it's just stunning. It's like I can't compare it to anything. I mean, when I call it Avatar-esque, it is just this bioluminescent party, and it is just beautiful. So I highly recommend to you cats and our listeners out there, check it out, because you can see why this should have been arguably the most romantic night of their lives.
With glowing shrimp. That's
glowing
all
shrimp.
Romance. All right.
Yeah.
If you see the shrimp the way I see the shrimp, sir.
Well, for this Valentine's Day, I'm going to take my wife to a nice frozen beach and look for glowing shrimp.
Yeah, go to the Hamlet.
Yeah, go to a Hamlet somewhere on Long
She'll
Island
love
or
it.
wherever.
Could do dinner, but no, let's go look at some glowing
I'm telling
shrimp.
you
can do
once you
both.
see it, your little bit of sarcasm is
All
going to
right.
evaporate.
We'll
and
see.
you know what's going to be?
You're going to move to the beach.
Thank you, Uncle Rob. But as they were soaking in this stunning demonstration of nature's beauty, Jenny realized that the sensation that was gripping her emotions at that moment was not a sense of awe, but one of inexplicable fear, in her own words. As soon as we stepped onto the beach, I had a feeling of general unease. General unease.
As soon?
That's just that little icky. That instinctive fear that one would experience in the presence of a predator. I chose to ignore it, occasionally peeking over my shoulder at the long, empty stretch of beach behind me, but mostly focusing on the tiny, glowing shrimp beneath our feet. Jenny pushed her anxieties aside and tried to focus on the basic romance of the moment and the parade of photo sites that seemed to go on forever in front of them. Nevertheless, the nagging sensation of being watched once again overcame her, and in her own words again. At one point, I felt a presence, and again, I chose to ignore it, as I've dealt with that quite a bit in my 30 years. I guess gnawing
having
sensations.
spidey sense,
Yeah.
or whatever.
No, maybe
or
maybe she
alleged
does.
spidey sense.
She just lives in a world of paranoia. Like,
Yeah.
Is that what she's doing?
It seems,
I felt fear.
or
right.
general unease.
Okay, yeah, all right.
I had not voiced my unease to my fiancé, so he was completely unaware. About 5 to 10 minutes into our short walk, we were both hunched over, his back facing the jetty, mine facing the stretch of empty beach, when he started peering over my shoulder up into the sky. Perplexed, he'd look up for a second, then look away. At this point, I was still trying to retain my composure and not look. I don't know what's going on in Jenny's mind. I don't know if maybe she was the girl that saw Wolf too many times or something, but it's your fiancé. You're alone on a beach. If he keeps looking confusedly over your shoulder.
But he's not screaming, or there's no horror at that point.
It's still valid to glance, though.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. There's no it's not like, oh my God, he's terrified, I'm not looking at it. It's just he's just kind of looking.
It's just, huh?
Yeah.
What?
If
Yeah.
we're hanging out and one of you
That's
guys
not
all
like,
of a
I'm
sudden
not
looks
doing
over
it.
your shoulder, we're all going to react.
We're all going to react.
Yeah, we're all going to be like, Rob, what'd you see? Was it a ghost cat?
It was.
What was it? Was it
I've
deer?
seen a ghost
Was
cat.
it a ghost cat? What happened?
It might be a ghost cat.
All right.
Okay. Perhaps she was afraid that looking at what her fiancé saw would confirm her worst fears. Or maybe, in classic human fashion, she thought that if she ignored whatever it was gnawing at her, it might go away. Regardless of her thought processes, Jenny was finally compelled to look when her husband-to-be shouted out in alarm.
Okay, well then.
That's when you have no
Yeah.
choice.
Yep.
And this is what she said. Finally, after a few minutes, he looked over my head and yelled, "Oh my God, what is that?" Classic.
A la Princess Bride.
Classic Jeff.
Oh my God, what is that thing?
Switch. I turned to look, and flying directly over my head was this huge creature I'd never seen. Jenny would describe this unfathomable phantasmagoric fiend that appeared to be actually swimming up and down on the air currents of the skies above them. She detailed the impracticable creature thusly. It appeared translucent or transparent, no color whatsoever, no visible structure outside of the motion which indicated what it looked like. Now, I myself am a visual artist. Of course, we knew that about Jenny.
Okay.
So this left a very distinct impression on me. This creature was shaped and moving in a way that a manta ray would, yet completely transparent, no color at all. I could see the stars through this thing. The only thing to allow the structure any appearance was the moonlight shining somehow on its exterior. So I guess that technically makes it translucent, but So basically, if you had a glass sculpture of a manta ray,
Right.
and
I guess,
and you could see the sky through it, because of course you're going to have it on the coffee table facing to the sky. It might catch the reflection of the moonlight, and
depending on the angle,
depending on it. So,
I guess,
so it becomes very confusing because when I'm first reading this, my first thought was, if this thing is completely fucking transparent, how could you even see the motion? But then when you factor in the reflection from the moon,
Right.
you're like, okay. And so it gives this impression of a large, mobile fucking manta ray of the sky.
Dude, we've seen this before, dude. Active camo, predators.
Oh, God
yeah, I was
damn
gonna
it.
say that it
God
sounds like
damn
Predator because you see a little bit of it.
Yeah.
It's true. It's actually true. And in fact, you kind of see it when it moves. Like the only time the invisibility is breached is when they move. It's almost like it's trying to catch up with the motion.
My favorite documentary, Predator 1, 2, Predators, The Predator,
Predator
Alien
2
versus
is
Predator.
a bad reenactment of what really probably happened in Predator 2.
That sounds
wow.
that sounds appropriate, actually.
Wow, that's just damning, Chris. All right,
Yeah,
Robert.
but it's true.
Continue.
Okay. Add to that the fact that the soon-to-be betrothed couple described this floating apparition as distinctly resembling a known marine animal, the manta ray, albeit a version that was light enough to take to the skies, and you have an animal that by all rational standards ought not exist. Jenny continued her description. It was larger than a standard sedan. Its wingspan was at least, from what I could estimate, 10 feet in width. While it was flying, its wings were moving up and down. The movement seemed familiar, like that of a gull swooping down and hovering over the shoreline. It was approximately 10 to 15 feet over my head. It had no visible head or tail, no discernible limbs or appendages of any kind. It appeared and moved exactly as a manta ray without the cephalic lobes or tail. Now, for those of you who don't know, and fuck all y'all for not being ichthyologists, cephalic lobes are the forward extensions of the pectoral fins, basically those long nubs that are in the front that filter in the food. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That manta rays are known for. So it looked like a ray sans that. That's basically what's going on.
Or a tail.
Or a tail. How would you see a tail?
But it's just like a little nub on the end.
I guess it's like
maybe
floppity wings.
That's what I picked, I guess.
Or the tail would be so thin that it just doesn't register because it's a nearly transparent creature.
Yeah.
True.
But because it doesn't register, we can't assume that it has one. We'll just have to take the eyewitness testimony as it is. Jenny went on to explain her state of mind upon witnessing this airborne aberration. I was just completely awestruck. But that fear took over, and after about 30 seconds of staring at this thing, we both turned and bolted toward the car. While running, we both simultaneously jerked our heads to the right in response to a glowing green light which seemed to flash twice. It was not the light from the tower or on the jetty, nor from any boat, as the water was clear. So, is this a burst of bioluminescence or whatever? We don't know. Whether or not this glowing green light emanated from the sky ray or had some other earthly or perhaps unearthly cause is a matter for debate. But whatever its source might have been, it was totally irrelevant to the couple as they scrambled into the car and immediately left the scene.
Okay.
As they drove away, a sense of relief must surely have begun to settle in on them. This reprieve would prove to be only temporary, as moments later, Jenny testified to seeing 2 more examples of this extraordinary species flying above their vehicle. End of quote. I never looked behind me. We started heading back on Dune Road when we saw what I can only describe as 2 smaller rays, which moved more like a bat would, flying together from right to left, overhead, past the car.
So they're tailing her.
Yeah, or two different ones. Are they like little acolytes
I
set
don't
out?
know.
Maybe
Follow
babies?
that car.
I
says
think
Mega
that's
Squid.
still in well, it could be the same one in one other one,
Right.
depending on her perspective.
Right.
I guess.
You're right. If it shot up high and looks
Especially
smaller,
if something looks like it's cloaked. How are you going to know
how
how
do you even
far
really see it? Yeah.
it like?
all of that is certainly up for interpretation and debate, and I agree.
I'm just pointing that out.
But just to tell her story.
She thinks it's 2 different ones.
There's a big one. And well, there's some reasons, too. These aerial anomalies were more translucent than their colossal counterpart, and had what the eyewitnesses described as a grayish epidermis. So that's one of the fundamental changes. She could actually see color on it that didn't seem to be reflected. Jenny and her intended watched as these animals seemed to be heading toward the beach in what might have been a reunion or perhaps a confrontation between these soaring scourges of the sky and the one that remained on the coast.
Oh, so they were heading, okay.
So that's, I guess, another thing that, I mean, it's not to say it couldn't be super fast, swoop out and swoop back and be heading towards the beach.
Right.
Everything Chris said is valid. It's just we don't know. But what it looked like is two smaller grayish ones heading towards the beach. Where the other one was that was larger for whatever reason.
Okay.
At this point, Jenny's fear began to be usurped by a distinct sense of enthrallment. As she watched them soar with a fluid grace quite unlike anything she had ever seen, Jenny even began to speculate about the animal's airbound origins, stating, "It was so beautiful and strange. It reminded me of a sea creature more than anything else. Maybe our air is like water to them." Fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe.
that's a good way to look
Sure.
at it. As you're panicking down the road trying to get the fuck away from these things. Yeah.
Well, you know, when you're on the beach and you're vulnerable and it's big,
Right.
Maybe you feel a certain way when you're, in the car.
You can when you're in the
with your
car,
hubby-to-be.
you can appreciate the beauty.
It's a possibility.
Okay.
While I personally admired the preservationist turn made by Jenny following what would be the last reported sighting of the Hampton Bays sky rays, and yes, it's Hampton Bays, and it's
Sky
multiple
rays.
sky rays.
Yeah.
I can't help but to wonder if her first instincts weren't the correct ones. Don't get me wrong, I'm all about the rational mind prevailing over the baser urges we all share, but a gut-level instinctive fear is not something that ought to be ignored. There are reasons why so many people have intuitive, perhaps even inborn, fears of venomous animals like snakes, scorpions, and spiders, and maybe that same innate feeling of dread that Jenny experienced reflects the genuine danger that these sky rays represent. Perhaps these glass-skinned airborne fish are subatmospheric voyagers who frolic unseen above us, straining the clouds for high-flying insects and the occasional small bird, never paying any mind whatsoever to the hairless monkeys inhabiting the world below. But we also have to consider the very real possibility that these things are massive, nearly invisible super predators that not only consume bugs and perhaps glowing shrimp, but whatever else happens to find itself on the menu simply by virtue of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So maybe that feeling of fear, and I'm not saying everyone that's ever been attacked by a predator, be it a gray wolf or a great white shark, does not necessarily have the spidey sense tingling. We know that.
Well, yeah.
But it is a universal enough phenomenon that, people sense danger sometimes before it actually happens, that I can't help but to think maybe in some cases it's with good reason, and maybe these things, if you're in open air and isolated and vulnerable, I mean, who's to say they don't just swoop down and snag you?
Yeah.
I'm not trying to indict these fucking sky rays,
know.
I don't know,
but
man.
still.
Sounds like you're indicting them. Sky predators, nefarious fiends of the sky. Right? Was that what you said? No.
I didn't, but I should have.
All right, cool.
Is that what you said?
Usually I'll say something like flying fiends, me in alliteration.
Yeah.
I like to
flying
play that game.
enigmatic entities of horrific horosity.
Translucent touch holes of the sky.
Oh, yeah, so you guys are writing from now on.
There you go.
Horrific horosity. Touch holes of the sky. All right. To round this up, like the reporter Ned Scott forebodingly stated at the conclusion of Howard Hawks' 1951 classic, The Thing from Another World, I bring you a warning. Every one of you listening to my voice, tell the world, tell this to everybody, wherever they are. Watch the skies. Everywhere, keep looking. Keep watching them motherfucking skies.
Wow.
Sounds like good advice to me. Because this goes back to, we've talked about atmospheric, creatures before, the Etherians there, Trevor James Constable and his idea that sky critters can basically, like super invisible amoeba, will shoot down and
this has come up a couple
eat people.
times.
Yeah, we talked about it during the gargantuan gliders.
Yeah. And
We've talked about it a few times.
Sometimes it might go back to a blimp. I'm not saying this is a blimp situation.
I swear to fucking God.
I feel like this one isn't, to be honest with you.
Well, okay.
Normally, it's always it's a blimp every time.
Before we take the blimp off the table, let's just wait and see what else we've got to discuss here, because it sounds like something. They're definitely seeing something in the sky to get them mobile enough to be like, we are out of here. But the question is, what is it? We dealing with, like Rob said, some kind of weird sky predators that for some reason
I don't know. Just
don't.
because she runs in fear at the sight of cheese, apparently, because she.
Well, he did.
She turned no. Well, she is a self-admitted.
Oh, right, because she's scared.
Fearist.
Well,
A fearist?
she is
fearist.
She is fearist. A is a great term, and kudos.
She's a fearist.
But B, she is more, I think, implying that she is
No, I know exactly.
intuitive and,
Fearist is
and
just-
might fall into little fits of anxiety now and again that aren't necessarily
Is she a nervous
explicable.
Nelly?
A nervous Nelly.
Is she a nervous
That might
Nelly?
be somehow I feel like that's probably sexist in this day and age, but yes, she is clearly a nervous fucking
Okay,
Nelly.
cool. I'm
Absolutely.
not saying that I'm not. I'm just saying, you got to keep your survival skills
Well,
about
there's
you.
also nervous Neds.
Yeah, nervous
This is
Ned.
non-gender specific
Yeah.
anxiety issues.
You got to keep your wits about you at all times, especially when you're out in open air, especially it's at night. You're trying to be romantic. There's glowing shrimp that I didn't even know about until this podcast, and all of a sudden,
which are fucking stunning.
all of a sudden, boom, you got something in the sky. We can do.
Right.
Nothing.
And just as Chris said, just because you fear cheese doesn't mean pizza is dangerous. Maybe to your arteries, but generally speaking, it's probably pretty safe.
You're right.
So just because she feels dread doesn't mean it is dangerous, but it doesn't mean it's not.
Right.
So I mean, I've always been really sketchy, as we all are.
I like
Jesus
I
Christ.
like that argument. Just because doesn't mean it's not. It's great. No. So, but it didn't make any move towards them.
Well, I mean, it was generally coming. The first one,
Right, it
the
was
one that
coming
was
out.
mostly
Yeah, but
transparent
it
and
wasn't
reflecting the moon,
swooping down or
it
anything
seemed
like
to be
that,
heading
or-
towards them.
Right.
They made their escape, but not actively attacking.
Yeah.
Not like
Well, yeah.
No.
They. I assumed it wasn't like at their level coming at them. I assumed
I
they
figured it
looked
was
up.
Well,
coming.
and-
no, I think she said 10 to 15 feet above them. So closer than you'd want something that's the size of a fucking standard sedan
Right.
to be.
Okay.
And so it's got wings. It's got wings, maybe a maw.
I mean, it's gonna freak
It didn't
you out.
describe it.
If
It's
you
gonna
see
freak you
something, it's
out.
gonna freak you out, especially if it's kind of like translucent, which could lead to the theory that maybe they were just kind of their eyes.
Well,
were
that's
playing
the
tricks
issue
on
with,
them.
with translucent, because that can fuck with your perspective.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Like if there was a translucent seagull, just like 5 feet away from you,
Right.
that was just a little bit here, you might fucking think it was farther away and really just fucking big.
Right.
It's a real
I
possibility.
mean, if it's right here, then you're like, oh my god, it was 50 feet long, and no, it's a fucking seagull.
Right.
Yeah,
You
this
know,
is a fucking
the
seagull.
translucency kind of does.
it
gonna skew your
intrinsically
perspective.
limits your ability to really determine, size and obviously detail.
Mm-hmm.
So the questions that started popping up in my head, the first one I think were the facts that there was, or the fact that there was two different batches of them. That is, were the smaller creatures that they saw from Dune Road as they were heading out simply returning to the coastline, maybe searching for their larger, less visible mother, maybe as part of a nature's call feeding frenzy type of thing,
Sort of like the gargantuan gliders that we covered, or blimps.
or fucking blimps.
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing that right now. I'm not
Okay.
playing this game.
All right.
What I'm intrigued is is it like maybe when the shrimp glow and beach themselves and whatever time of year, is this like the triggering of a mating season for the species
Or
that
feeding?
or
Yeah.
feeding?
Yeah.
Some sort of part of their natural life cycle, and because they are fucking obviously notoriously difficult to see, we just don't know. We just don't know that this is their time to hump in the skies above us or swoop down and eat fucking seagull shit or whatever the fuck they're doing, because they're basically invisible.
Yeah.
Unless,
Except, but the two were kind of grayish.
Yes.
I'm gonna throw something weird out there
Okay. Oh, what do you got?
because I've only seen you don't normally see fucking night gulls and stuff. But
Night gulls.
If you've ever seen
The threat of the night
if
gull.
you've ever seen gulls at night, you might be terrified for a second because they're not discernibly birds in the dark, and they look a little grayish, and they don't look like obviously they do in the day.
Right. We
In
can
the
actually
way
make
they
them out.
fly.
Yeah.
And
Oh, and that's only because she said they look grayish. So I'm like, those the night birds kind of look.
notably, I think she just said they were smaller, but didn't give an approximation of size.
Right, exactly.
In the same way the first one. So, to give the devil, in this case, Chris, who's clearly the devil is due, if you had just seen something genuinely anomalous, difficult to discern, and completely frightening, you might start looking at the sky and just start seeing fucking phantom rays everywhere. There is a real possibility that even if the first thing that they saw was legitimate and weird and terrifying, that the next thing they saw might have just been a reaction to the panic they're driving at this point.
Well,
though it did fly over the car, I assume
Right.
that they stopped at a stop sign or something, even though it's not specified, because, if it's flying right to left, I mean, maybe they're driving, who knows? But it was much more chaotic, and their senses were at a much more heightened place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we definitely have to recognize, as Chris said, that there is a possibility that this part of it is even more likely to be something terrestrial, or if not terrestrial, like standard Earth animal.
Yeah, that was the only part I was referring to.
But,
the first
but
one
then again, it could also
doesn't-
be a fucking sky ray. We don't know, but I dig what you're saying completely.
Gargantuan
Yeah.
gliders, baby. They're everywhere.
It could be. I mean, how far off is it? Flat? Mantas are flat.
Yeah.
Gargantuan gliders
Yeah.
are flat. Maybe there's a phase in their life where they're just kind of see-through.
Where do they live? In the sky? I feel like with all the tech we have, all the satellites in space, all the planes that fly per day, no one's ever really seen one in the sky in a plane. No one's ever hit one. No one's ever...
Now, you're talking about gargantuan gliders at this point. and
anything,
not-
just sky thingies like this.
Well, let me contradict. Well, I won't contradict it because that's irrefutably true what you're saying. But let me say this: if something is invisible or virtually invisible, and is just tenuously constructed, as a lot of these sky critters are supposed to be, like basically fall apart with a sturdy fart, or a ceiling fan would just tear a whole population asunder. Planes would shoot right through them and kill them, and we'd never know. They would probably dissipate before they landed, if they even land.
maybe.
They might be something that float upward. Maybe their version of drowning is going up into the fucking stratosphere. And perhaps, like sharks, they are constantly swimming nonstop. So if they're
Right.
creatures that forever live in the sky, even if their corpses do fall once they expire, if they're so insubstantial...
well, no one
then
said that that's
who
not
knows if you'd find
not
them.
active on purpose, and there's something that they either they're aware of it or it's part of their biology, but there's no way you can't say either way.
Oh, no.
That's not a biological like you say you want to grab something and you grab it. It's not like saying, okay, it's active fucking camo time and it's on. So when you die, it's all of a sudden there it is.
Initiate active camo.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like a self-destruct button for them when
Could
they
you
die.
imagine?
This-
See, I wasn't even considering the potential for sentient creatures that activate camo at all.
Well,
I was
it's
just
just
thinking
a
that
Yeah, well,
biological,
you know,
just
like-
like I was. That's why I made the analogy of just grabbing something. It's just a natural.
I mean, chameleons
thing that comes
can
on.
change their
Well,
color.
and
like any like cuttlefish or whatever.
yeah,
they,
I was about to
Yeah.
say octopus, cuttlefish.
Yeah.
I mean, they're supposed to be extraordinarily bright. Like, aren't they like
super
by some
smart.
standards, like just the smartest non-human creatures going on? But even that having said, who knows how much of that they're intelligently controlling? Like when an octopus stops by a cluster of coral and instantly turns its
Right.
epidermis and shape of its body to look like that for camouflage. I don't think that's a conscious decision. I don't know. I think it might be aware that it needs to hide, and that sends like an involuntary signal to its body to do what it's supposed to do instinctively.
Yeah, right. So I figure when that part of your brain's gone, then it reverts back to its normal form. So if you're in the sky, translucent,
you'd be clear.
you're just not really translucent. You're just matching the sky.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, it's funny because
Biologically
we're
speaking.
talking speculative biology
Yeah,
on an unfathomable thing,
Yeah.
because the idea that the skies are chock full, like super oceans, with predators and prey and all, just a whole fucking biosphere of fucking entities or creatures at this point, animals that we don't know about, that fall apart at the slightest heavy breeze that a hurricane would just demolish. Not even a hurricane, like a plane flying by.
Right.
And so we never find evidence of them. Most of them would plummet to their death in an ocean anyway. But even if it landed in the middle of Manhattan, whatever's left wouldn't be discernible. And again, I know I'm pissing in the wind. I know I'm making this up as I go along.
Do we make that up, right? About the whole like dissipate, how they just dissipate when they die? I'm pretty sure we just made that up.
Yes,
Okay.
we did on the fly. I'm not saying that
I got
no one
nervous.
else.
I'm like, did you read something that I missed?
No,
Or
no.
Did I black out?
I'm not saying that no one else has ever come up with that theory of like sky biodiversity and crazy fragile creatures. I'm sure that I didn't just make that up for the first time in the history of humanity. But for our purposes, yes,
Or
we're
if
just
you,
winging
or
it.
if you did,
Or maybe.
or if you did.
Or, yeah, we don't know. We don't know. So what the fuck? Assuming that
Well-
it isn't a mistaken identity or random gulls and a nervous mind, what could we be dealing with here?
I mean, kind of like with the gargantuan gliders when you go back to the whole, I don't know, sky amoeba theory with the ether. It gets a little bit goofy. And I remember I was doing some research on it.
I do. I remember you sent me a pile of it back when we first started.
Because there was a whole like religion based around it, and there
Yes.
was like a power, and there was like energy, and there was like,
like
Jesus of the Christ
I'm
was
gonna
the
say
commander.
it wrong, like Oregon energy, but I know it's not the
It
beautiful
wasn't-
Pacific Northwest
It
state,
wasn't
but
like
like
Oregon.
or
Oregon
something like
energy.
that. I actually I didn't even wade through it. It was just so dense. I'm like, oh fuck this.
Yeah, there's that whole ether, and we've talked about this before. There's that whole ether theory, which is just super convoluted, super cool. Don't get me wrong, it's awesome because it goes into really cool space bullshit.
Right, of course.
and interdimensional bullshit
Oh,
too.
a cult based on cryptids that live in the sky and are associated with space is of course up our alley.
Yeah, totally. But I
Yeah.
think that maybe if we are dealing with some sort of creatures that like live in the sky that maybe we just aren't aware of for some reason, whether it could be an issue of perception, maybe
Right.
we just can't perceive them.
And we are limited. We
Yeah,
are
we
absolutely
have limited
limited
perception,
in what,
yeah.
I mean, we don't see in infrared. We don't see in a lot of spectrums.
Right.
I mean, we can artificially, but we don't naturally.
Again, like the Predator.
Very much like a predator.
Like the Predator. Well, he's got tack.
He does. You know what's funny is I refer to predators as if though they are real.
You always do.
I do. Yeah, because in my world, they are.
when
Yeah.
when I watch that Jacques Cousteau documentaries on the predators
One day
of
that
the
Predator's
sea.
going to take my work and I won't have to go back the next day.
Yeah, exactly. I swear to
Oh
God,
my
the
God.
Predator shows up, kills everybody. God damn it. So maybe we are dealing with some sort of creatures that are in the sky. Now, interestingly enough, though, if they are predatory towards humans, that opens up an entirely different conversation.
I mean, the sky critters, constables, amoeba sky critters,
Yep.
definitely were said to consume human beings, like through absorption or whatever. My thought would be, weirdly enough, like if you're invisible, and I don't know how this works, but if you ate a clearly visible person, would it not look like a slowly digesting bill?
Yeah.
Flying through the sky, like what the fuck
So-
is that?
Yeah, a guy just also flies up in the air, and then all of a sudden he slowly gets he gets shorter and shorter.
Yeah, he gets
There's
masticated
legs.
and dissolves.
You're like,
So
what the
is
fuck
this
just
like
happened?
Wonder Woman in her invisible,
invisible jet.
Yeah, where you're
And-
just like, why did she do it up there?
She's just sitting in the air, like moving along.
I
You're
would
like,
say the greatest bit of proof suggesting that they are not predating on human beings is the fact that we don't have floating sky corpses
Yeah, that's
randomly
true.
decomposing and being
Yeah.
chewed up.
Right.
It's not a phenomenon that has ever been reported as
If
far as
they
I know.
are flying around, the skies or whatever, I mean, they very well could be swooping down, and maybe they're not even carnivorous. Maybe they're.
well, no, or
know?
they're not from the sky; they are from the sea,
I was thinking about
and there's
that,
just some
actually.
other purpose we don't know about why they have to go on out.
If they
side of the
primarily
water.
live, if they primarily live over the water.
So primarily a marine animal that has the ability.
no.
Why not?
Well, my theory was that maybe they just lived over the oceans.
Oh no, I meant they live in the water.
Oh, they live in. Okay.
and for some
gotcha,
reason they
gotcha.
go out of
Hey,
water.
you
for
both can have theories, and I
whatever.
love them.
Okay.
They could just live above the oceans because maybe what they eat comes up in like those swells that
Yeah.
go skyward
Maybe
with
they
little
enjoy-
bits of plankton and who
maybe-
knows what.
Maybe they enjoy the salt.
Okay, all right.
Potassium.
I'm just gonna give it to you.
Maybe it was.
Maybe they enjoy the
Listen,
salt.
I'm trying to be smart.
Bless your heart.
I said potassium. Okay. Give me potassium.
They thrive on potassium.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
I said a word. Be happy for me.
I would think, though, even though we have no evidence of a mouth at all, that they would likely be filter feeders. And
Right.
if they're filter feeders, then it could be like, say, anything from bugs to who the hell knows what.
Well,
Maybe they eat clouds.
I mean, if they just had a little beak, I don't think you wouldn't notice if they did. If it was translucent, like they say, I don't think you'd be able to pick that out.
Oh, I agree.
because you see the motion. So if it had, I don't think they'd be able to see that, regardless.
So, there's so many different things, but we have three choices on one aspect, and that is in terms of their origins, and that is terrestrial, extraterrestrial, interdimensional. Three of our standard go-tos, but in this case, I mean, interdimensional is an option. If these things, and I always use the analogy, a subpar film that's fascinating to me in concept, which is of course From Beyond,
Right.
based
Yeah.
on the H.P. Lovecraft, novella, and made in the mid '80s by Stuart Gordon. The idea that only under certain circumstances can you see these floating, hellish monsters, that are constantly surrounding us.
Which is basically the sky critter theory. It's basically what it is.
In a lot of ways, it is.
Right.
Extraterrestrial in that they're space-based life forms that if they get sucked up into the gravity of a planet, they just die. Like somehow slowly the gravity tears them apart. Maybe the weight, maybe maybe going through our magnetic field. I mean, must be horribly damaging to something.
The Van Allen belt, dude.
There you go.
Yeah.
Potassium in the Van Allen belt.
That's right. Sam Smart.
Dude,
God damn it.
You are sciencing
you know what? I know things.
Out of this
You are
pod.
smart as fuck.
I know things.
We all recognize that.
All right.
Dash.
He's so smart.
Well, there are a couple of theories here that I think that we can run over real quick here. So real quick here, we got colony of rods.
Can we ignore
No.
that possibility?
We can ignore that possibility. Well,
I cannot.
I think rods have been disproven, though, haven't they?
But not in colony form.
Okay.
Well,
all right. Fine.
They kind of have.
By the way, this is just a list I made. This is not,
here we go.
This is not theories people have put out there. This is just some shit that, I wanted to talk
coming
about.
up next, we have space demons, which is a favorite of mine. I love space and I love demonology. So
Can you take
fucking
hell
cool.
and space off the table?
With this? No, you can't. You know, else you can't take off the table. You know what I'm going to say?
The devil.
No.
Jesus?
How dare you? A
Blimps?
blimp. Jesus Christ. A blimp. Classic blimp.
How dare you?
All right. Anyway.
Vintage invisible.
How
Yeah.
dare you? It's not a blimp, Dash.
Ghosts of harpoon
Even I'm
manta
there.
rays.
That's my favorite go-to theory.
Okay.
Indulge this for a second. They look like manta rays, except for what? They're semi-invisible.
They're
they
ghosts.
fly like angry manta rays. Not really. I don't know what an angry manta ray does. But what are they?
Flies.
The ghosts of harpoon manta rays
Do
that
you
have
har-
taken
do
to the
peop-
sky looking for vengeance.
Do people harpoon manta rays?
I
really?
don't understand how people fish for manta
Again,
rays.
But
no,
didn't
I,
the manta
I
ray
feel
kill-
like you'd find
A
trail missing.
stingray
pe-
killed Steve Irwin.
Yeah.
That's
I
where you're
almost
going,
said a
right?
stingray killed Steve Austin.
Nobody kills the
Stone
bionic
cold.
man.
Keep me away from those damn stingrays, sons of bitches.
No, although I will say if Steve Austin did get in a fight with a stingray and he gave it the Stone Cold Stunner, that would be absolutely fucking
Stuck in the-
amazing.
It
Yeah.
would be.
Yeah,
And
okay.
by the way, who is the bionic man? Because I clearly dropped that ball.
Steve Austin.
I think it is.
Is it Steve Austin?
It's the same one,
Oh,
yeah.
so I didn't.
No.
So you guys just went to wrestling and I went to 70s sci-fi.
Yeah, you
Yeah,
went
totally,
to wait.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're all geeks in our own way.
Interdimensional
Bionic
entities, which I
man.
am a big proponent of the interdimensional theory, and as we brought before, because of perspective and how we do perceive things in our reality, maybe these things are just adjacent to our reality, and we just happen to be getting a glimpse of
I
them.
always love that. Reality adjacent.
Reality
that
ad-
seems
yeah,
like just such
reality
a
adjacent.
polite way of putting
I use it to
And this
everything.
last one, for the record, this is for you, Mark.
Okay, this is late night plastic kite competition by the rich spoiled pricks who live in the Hamptons.
Yeah, that's another issue. The Hamptons is
It's
highfalutin.
ritzy
Nice.
as fuck. It is
Yeah.
affluent as the dills.
So
It could be
there's a-
tech.
yeah.
It could be the drones, super invisible hyper
yeah.
drones.
Fucking drones.
I mean, maybe we could be dealing with something extraterrestrial. I personally, though, I'm going to stick with the sky critter theory and say that. And I know we've talked shit about the whole ether and that whole.
Well, because
deal.
that goes into philosophy territory. It stops being a potential science and starts being an ideology,
But it's
which
kinda,
is different.
It's kind of like a shitty carnival funhouse.
Oh, absolutely.
You look at it and you're like, but you know it's going to be a good time. You know it's going to be a good time.
No, I don't argue that at all.
Yes. So, and I did all that research on that, and
You feel like you need to find ways
have
to apply it?
Yeah, because all that research went nowhere. So, that was like
Right.
4 hours.
What I will say is this: while I don't put much stock into Theoria or Constable's theories regarding it, there's something we've talked about a lot in recent podcasts, be it the Zimbabwe mermaids or whatever, and that is convergent biology. Evolution, where and my example always is the same one: bats and birds, same basic equipment, but evolved from two different sources to do the same thing, which is fly.
Okay.
They both have wings. A lot of the constructs are different, but they become basically the same thing to serve the same purpose. So maybe this thing looks like a manta ray and seems like it's swimming in the sky, but is completely, utterly foreign to any marine animal, and it's just something that must have lighter than air bones. And who knows what other biological factors that I can't even fathom, but just happens to resemble a manta ray. That could mean it is unknown terrestrial fauna, otherwise known as a cryptid, or any of the other things we put on the fucking table.
All right, Christopher, can you give me a skeptical angle, please?
No.
Well, you already brought up the
No.
you already brought up the whole bird angle.
Baby gulls.
Sure.
Baby gulls.
But that was only concerning the two she saw
Okay,
after.
so do you think
there's nothing
possibly-
translucent in the air that exists?
Okay, but do you
that
think
I
that
know of.
maybe-
That we know of.
Do you
Always
think-
the caveat.
Do you think maybe possibly that that there was a bird or something in the sky and they just saw it and they freaked out and turned it into something that it wasn't?
always it could be.
Okay.
I mean,
Just put it out there.
But I mean, if it was.
it's hard to say either way. Like if nothing was translucent and it was just there was just grayish things,
Right.
I'm gonna be like, yeah, I think they just saw some shit and
Yeah,
and
misidentified
flipped.
a condor
The
or
translucent
something.
is the weird thing because that's generally attributed to the sea,
right.
yeah.
but it also flies, and which is not attributed to things in the water
True.
that we know of. So it's like, what are you doing? what are
Although-
you doing here?
You got a seagull, you got moonlight, you got the ocean, you got the phosphorescent shrimp that I didn't know about.
Which are gorgeous.
That
What
I
could
didn't
that-
know about.
What could that do? You got moonlight, you got water, you got shrimp,
So
you
the
got something
moonlight
flying.
reflects off.
What do you get?
the
What happens?
Abyss-style shrimp.
I'm asking
straight
you
out
an
of James
honest
Cameron's
question.
camera.
I have no idea.
hits the irises of the two young lovers that are walking the beach.
Do you think they
Both
were?
wearing-
distorts and creates a hologram.
They were
They both have contact lenses in.
okay, so it's light
Cool.
refracted.
Okay.
They're reflecting the shrimp, the birds.
Oh.
But why would it?
Wait a
Why
minute.
would it have a golden hue from the moon rather than the bluish or whatever color hue of the shrimp?
The stars would be the they think they're seeing the stars, but it's not. It's the shrimp, the reflection of the shrimp.
Huh. Chris and his contact lens shrimp.
That's why we refer to Chris in the very last moment here. To be
Oh,
like, bring us.
it's the night mirror gull.
Oh my God.
Really, if you think about it, though, between the sun, the moon, or not the sun, Jesus Christ.
the sun, the moon, Jupiter, Satan, Zeus, apples.
Apples. That's
We're
always
just
the
throwing in
key.
everything.
Pepperidge Farms, Captain Crunch,
Yeah.
Rubbers, and
Oh my
Dr.
God.
Pepper.
Robbers.
And Dr. Pepper. If you do have though, if you got the, I think again, I'm not sure if this actually works out, but I'm thinking about it in my head visually. Like if you've got the moon and then you've got the ocean, you've got these shrimp. It just there's got to be some sort of weird light things happening.
It could be.
Has
It
to
could be. It could very well be.
You know what? I can't fathom what it could be, but I love the way your mind is working.
I don't know if that's how light works, and I'm not going to claim to know that because again, I'm
Well,
not
none of-
smart. But
Well, none of us are light particle.
you
Okay.
are very smart.
if there's
sir.
any people out, if there's
Exports.
any people any of our good listeners out there that understand a light and how it works,
a
let us
light
know.
and how it works.
Well, it'll reflect off something. Maybe they
Right.
were wet. If they're like diving for things, then they're wet, and they would
true.
reflect from the wet.
That's true. Okay. All right. So that's the skeptical point of view. I'm going to stick with the interdimensional sky critter theory because I spent a lot of fucking time researching that bullshit. Rob, are you going to go with me on the sky critter?
No, I'm going to go with our haunted skies.
Haunted
Oh, the
skies.
ghosts.
Oh, the
Yeah,
man
man.
ghost. All right, Chris,
Yeah.
what do you?
Yeah.
Sea
think?
critters
The night
done
go.
wrong.
Going on the night go.
Okay. So are you going to go with the reflective light?
Yeah.
Science that we
Since
don't-
I invented that.
You invented it.
So,
yeah. Okay,
yeah.
cool. All right. Well,
The
I mean,
Science of
there you
Light.
have it. The science of light.
By Chris Carnicelli.
There you go. All right.
It's coming.
Cool. All right, awesome. Well, there you have it. Thank you for joining us for the Kryptonaut podcast. You know what? As always, let us know what your thoughts are on this. And if anybody out there has any more Sky Critter information, always just DM us the information because a lot of you guys do that. And I've been trying to save everything that we've gotten.
Oh,
So,
yeah, a lot of it comes in handy.
yeah, so it's good to know because, you know, again, the whole Sky Critter theory is super wonky, but I really like it. I
It's-
really like it.
Listen, the idea of atmospheric creatures that we haven't identified yet is fascinating and to me
It's terrifying.
wide open.
Yeah,
It's
totally.
terrifying.
Totally.
But it's a wide open field of study.
Yeah.
Like second only or maybe even first to the oceans themselves.
Right.
I mean, we're terrestrial bound for the most part, and that's what we do, and we're fascinated by things that share the land with us. But really, it's the oceans that hold a lot of mysteries and the skies where hardly anyone's looking.
Yeah.
That could be
you
chock
go.
full of some of the best discoveries as yet unmade.
Sky Critters and Nazi Bells. All right, cool. Thank you for joining us. Be sure to rate and review this podcast on the Apple iTunes, the Apple Podcast app. Stick around for some reviews. Social medias, Insta's, Twitter's, Facebooks. Hit us up there. Big Cartel shop is kryptonotpodcast.bigcartel.com. We have our enamel pins for sale over there. We also have some sticker packs, and we got some koozies, so you can grab those as well.
We're drinking from ours right now?
Yes, we are. T-Public, buy some T-shirts there. Anything you buy from us goes to help support the pod financially. And we're talking to you soon.
Absolutely.
There it is.
Bye.
Ghost.
See ya.
Mantas in the sky.
See ya.
Sing it at your own risk.
in the sky.
Mantas in the sky. All right, thank you for sticking around for the ratings and reviews. And you guys ready for these?
Totally.
All right, strap in. Here we go. Ready? 2-star review.
Yes.
From Ellie 1977A. Content interesting, but constant swearing.
What the fuck?
Interesting topics and subjects, but the presenters constantly swear throughout, which usually distracts from the podcast. Fair enough.
You know, I mean, yeah.
I think it's fucking bullshit. But
We are marked as explicit in iTunes and pretty much every podcast player. So, okay, let's move on to the next review. 1-star review, head scratcher chick. So many F-bombs? Really? With 3 question marks. I was excited to find this podcast, but the casual dropping of F-bombs really turned me off. No thanks, guys.
that's a complete fucking lie. First,
Okay, so again,
that-
I'm just going to put
that
it
is
out
some
there.
bullshit.
I'm just going to put it out there
Yeah.
that this podcast is marked explicit.
Yeah,
So,
it is. It is not like how are they not fairly warned about that?
It says explicit.
You know what? Everyone's welcome to have their opinion.
Yeah, whatever.
And you know what? I gosh darn support
Yeah,
their
I support
right.
them too, and that's why we're reading their reviews. Another 1-star review from Snappy Trevor.
Oh my God, it never ends.
I tried to listen to this podcast. However, every other word was an F-bomb.
Are
If the
you
language
kidding me?
was cleaned up, it might have been worth listening to.
Oh my God! How did we get 3 punches on swearing in a row?
Yeah, we got 3
and
of
some
them.
people just
So,
don't. It's not their jam, man.
I consider it a trio of Tipper Gores.
Yeah,
So-
absolutely.
so-
PMRC.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I've got to say? I am so relieved because 2, I thought, okay, that's fine. Then 1, all right. All bad reviews had to do with our language and not our content. So in that sense, I'm like, all right, not so bad.
Right, yeah.
On the other hand, it's like, read the fucking warning.
To be fair, it is marked explicit in every. And these came from iTunes.
Uh-huh.
These reviews were on iTunes. So in iTunes, it specifically has an explicit and like parental advisory sticker on our thing. So
Well, maybe they're not. I mean, if somehow they read a recommendation, they might just go to it and not.
That's
aren't-
true.
Aren't
yeah,
really,
that's kind of what I'm thinking.
Aren't
yeah.
really paying
Well, you know what
attention.
I'm thinking? If
to that.
if someone's like got the soccer team in their car, they're taking them to practice, a bunch of like 11-year-olds rearing to go. It's like, hey, you guys want to hear about Bigfoot? Sure.
I heard this pod was great.
Pop it in.
Yeah.
Fuck sucking Sasquatch Samadon. It's like, oh God. So I can see where that could go
Yeah,
awry.
it happens. It happens. But you know what? They left the reviews, and we're going to honor the review policy by
Always.
reading their reviews. So let's move on here with excellent. 5 stars from Funeral Swinger. This podcast was a really great discovery for me. I was brought here by a shout out from the Astonishing Legends. Hey, what's up,
Thanks,
guys?
guys.
Hey.
They shouted out Rob in an episode. Dynamically, what these guys do reminds me of last podcast on the left and Astonishing Legends combined. Really excellent content, really fun to listen to. I am completely honored to be mentioned.
Oh, my God, I was about
with
to say.
Astonishing Legends and one of my
Oh, yeah,
favorite
Jesus.
podcasts, the last podcast on the left.
That is
so.
high praise
Fuck yeah.
indeed.
So yeah, so thank you all very much for those reviews. Again, if you got this far and you're mad about our language, I don't know what to tell you
Yeah.
because unfortunately, this is how we talk.
No, I mean, I don't think anyone has stuck with us that was offended by it. Like, I don't think there's anyone who's just like, they've got it.
Well,
They've got
no.
that magical
However-
something.
There was that dude that listened to 10 episodes and was like,
Oh,
"I
yeah.
listened to 10 of your episodes and you guys are terrible."
He just couldn't get. He couldn't get past
couldn't
it.
get past that we were being funny, which we don't. We're just talking.
You're supposed to be scary.
Yeah. So
That's
Well,
right.
yeah.
Not profane.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, but hey, there you have it.
Sorry.
Keep those reviews coming. If you guys want to leave us some reviews to help bury these 2- and 1-star reviews, that'd be awesome.
Oh, God, that would be a
Jesus
Yeah, if you
favor.
want to help bury those reviews,
Dude,
that'd
you
be
can't.
phenomenal.
Like, if you think about the math, infinitely speaking, it can never be
No,
buried.
we still have a
It can-
5-star review on iTunes. So thank you all very much. Robert, let's go to Facebook where things are going to get interesting.
Oh, I like that.
Jeez,
Okay.
is it a twist?
Yeah, really. Do we have to be aware? Is the shoe going to drop? The iron shoe?
It could. It could.
I don't even know what the iron shoe is supposed to be. Sometimes I just say things and hope it works out. That's just literally
I
how
get
goes.
it. It dropped because it's heavy.
Yeah, thank you. Zach Clute is the first review. And he says, normally, not always, but normally when I bring up the topic of anything cryptozoological or paranormal, I am scoffed at or met with thunderous eye roll. I have been there, sir.
The loudest of eye rolls.
Indeed. Now I have a thoroughly engaging and genuinely entertaining podcast to listen to. I hope he means ours.
I know.
Thanks, guys, for the deep belly laughs and thought-provoking topics. Beers on me someday.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Fucking A right, Zach. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much, Zach.
Flutie.
I know.
Excellent.
He's the hydrogen peroxide
Clutie.
to the dirty wounds that have been inflicted. It tingles a little, it stings a little, but you know it's cleaning you out.
There you go.
And our next review comes from Alan Edkins. And he says, came for the cryptids, then stayed for the random metal musings.
Yeah.
Rampant hilarity, and for Mark's war on everything.
That is
I had no more this
accurate.
episode.
Oh, that's awesome.
But I've only had 2 beers. So.
Great, informative, and fun show. We try to be all
All
three.
right, yeah, good.
Hashtag Hellerspace.
Yeah, there it is. Hello
Fuck yeah.
Oh,
Space.
thank
Boom.
you, Alan.
All right, Bobby, let's round it out with our last review. What do we got?
Our last review comes to us from Ashley Golish. I can't lie. This is the worst fucking podcast I have ever heard.
Okay.
True auditory ear skull fucking torture.
Yeah.
After listening to this, I feel personally violated and attacked.
Oh, Jesus
Wow.
Christ. Wow.
Multiple dots, all caps. Just kidding.
Oh, you got me.
These bearded Charlie's cryptid angels, I fucking love that.
That's pretty dope.
Are the most entertaining and personable bunch ever. I dare you not to fall in love. Please, please, please make a naughty calendar of you guys.
Oh, no.
Hashtag
Oh, no.
Lady Boner.
No.
Seriously, engorged and throbbing. XOXO, ghoulish effects on the Instas.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
what?
Ashley.
You will regret that immediately.
Yeah.
If that calendar ever came out, no one would even. I don't think a printer would even print it.
You know, well, first off,
They
it
would
would
see it and be like, oh,
need to
God.
be
Once they
11 by 17.
Once they stop throwing up, they wouldn't be able to print anymore.
Oh,
Is it just gonna be like us nestled in you? Just like, here you go. Just like,
we can find some tastefully erotic ways to use me as a human bearskin rug, I
all
think.
right, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Well, some
that-
together, some separate. but-
Yeah, I don't know that. Some separate.
Oh,
I mean, ones is like we each get a month or 2.
Right. Can I
yeah,
just
well,
be like?
we'll
it-
have to distribute. It would be 4 months each, obviously, for the distribution.
If it
of
was
a year.
separate, or we
Yeah.
we do 3 months and then 3
Oh,
together.
and
Yeah.
then 3 together. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Absolutely.
It's like a calendar to make you instantly puke. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah, yeah,
Things that make you
100%.
go.
100%.
Oh, that's funny.
But you know what? It would be pretty charming.
Thank you very much for the review. And yes, check her out on Instagram. It's a ghoulish_FX. And she has some, here, I'll show you guys right here. She has got some seriously fucking awesome work. Like,
Oh,
it-
yeah.
Oh my god, that's
great.
mind-boggling.
Yeah,
I love
it's
those
dope.
makeup fucking.
It's super cool.
Oh,
Yeah, it's awesome.
mad talented, phenomenal taste in podcast, wonderful hope in calendars. Thank you, Ashley.
Questionable decision with
real
calendar.
question. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh, God bless you.
All right, so thank you all very much. There you have it, and we'll be talking to you soon.
I just feel a
Laters.
whole lot better now. Honestly, we the good reviews helped. This last review just changed my entire demeanor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, that last review brought the entire month together for me. So
Beaming
there it
under
is.
the
So,
beard.
there it is. All right, we'll be talking to you.
Later, fuckers.